All right, 2021 winding down, 2022 off to a great start. I do 3 things the week between Christmas and New Year's. One is I do all my goal setting. But as I'm setting my goals, I also watch The Men Who Built America, which is an amazing History Channel series about the titans of industry back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, who built up industry and created current capitalism in the United States. And no matter how big your goals are, you watch that and you're like, damn it, I need a monopoly, right? And then the other thing that I watch the week between Christmas and New Year's is Wolf of Wall Street. That's another one of those things that just kind of gets you in the frame of mind to do some goal setting. So I was thinking about this and talking to a few people about how do I set my goals and what does that look like, the process look like of my goal setting. And so there's a few things, some bullet points that I put down that I want to talk to you about as you're setting your goals, and things that kind of just stimulate your mind and make you look at things and make you look at your goals in a little bit different of a light in your 2022 as you're setting your expectations for the new year. So I think one of the key things to understand when setting goals, I think about time, right? And I think about how am I spending my time? And I look at people like Elon Musk and people like Jeff Bezos and people who are achieving at a very, very, very high level, and realizing that from a time perspective, they have the exact same amount of that resource that you and I have. How are they achieving more in 24 hours in a day than you and I can achieve in 24 hours in a day? What is the difference, right? And I realized it comes down to how are they spending their time. And I was going through this stream of consciousness about spending time, and I kept on saying spending, and realizing when I think of spending, I'm thinking about spending money, right? But there's a big difference here. The difference is when you spend money, you can earn more money back. When you spend time, you can't get that time back. So you have to be very careful about how are you spending your time. One of the things that I did early on when I went from solopreneur to actually having a team and hiring my first person was I did something called a time audit. So this is something you gotta do, probably not the week of a holiday, but like an actual business like work week. I would highly suggest auditing your time. I'd create like an Excel spreadsheet, and every 15 minutes from the time you wake up to the time you fall asleep, write down what you did for that 15 minutes. Woke up at 6 o'clock in the morning, grabbed coffee, got cleaned up, got dressed, took the dog for a walk, got the kids off to school, went and did a workout for an hour, jumped on social media for 30 minutes, did this, did that, going through that whole process from the time you go to work, drove to work, answered calls, answered emails, did this, did that, came home, ate lunch, ate dinner, whatever your day looks like. Every 15 minutes, set an alarm on your clock and go through this exercise for an entire week, 7 days. At the end, you're going to have essentially a time audit of exactly how you spend your time. I would suggest doing this on like an annual basis probably to figure out what the highest and best use of your time is. It's going to give you a lot of awareness to again, how you're spending your time. So I went through that time audit, and every single line item got 2 marks next to it. The first mark was a $sign if it was a revenue generating activity, if it actually made money. The other mark had a 0 next to it, right? Meaning it did not make any money. And this is primarily when I was at work, when I was at work, right? Doing things that should have been work activities. Did it make money or did it not make money? Then I went through everything, my entire day also, and I either drew, I think at a 3rd grade level, right? So I either drew a smiley face or a frowny face. That essentially meant that this is an activity that I liked doing, or this was an activity that I did not like doing. And when I went to go hire my first employee, it was essentially an executive assistant role. And I was like, I don't even know how do you hire somebody? What do you tell them to do? Just make a list of stuff for them to do? And what I realized is I took all the things that had 0s next to it, and especially the things that had frowns next to it, And I made that the roles and responsibilities. That became the job description for my assistant. And by taking all those things off my plate that were non-revenue generating activities, I was able to then focus on the revenue generating activities and the stuff I actually like doing, and all the headache stuff was off my plate. Another way that you could do this is you could label those activities as like a $10 activity, $100 activity, $1,000 activity, or a $10,000 activity. And you, as the CEO of your business, should be focusing on those $10,000 activities. Maybe depending on where you are, the $1,000, I wouldn't go down to $100 activities. I would staff out everything for sure that's at $10 and everything that's at $100, and I would just focus on those $1,000 and $10,000 activities. So that's another kind of spin on it. But sit down, and actually spend the time to have the awareness of how you are spending your time. Right? It's one of those working on your life versus just being caught up in the day-to-day activities. It'll give you a lot of clarity as to where you're wasting time and where you're most productive. By doing that, it allowed me to then take a look, eliminate the stuff that was non-productive, focus on the things that generated revenue, and in the next 10 months, I tripled my income from what I made the entire previous year, because I was focused on revenue generating activities, and that gave me the opportunity to then hire more people, making an investment in more people that then bought back more time, that drove more revenue, and did all these things. So this is an extremely powerful exercise, and I highly suggest it, even if you have a big team, right? I'm just giving you one example. Now I plan on sitting down, looking at where am I spending my time. Like, I still have to send wires once in a while. I'm like, why the hell am I sitting on here sending a wire right now? Like, there's things that you can put in place, and I need to have, my personal banker send these wires for me. Well, there's no reason for me to do it. Or going to UPS, right? Because my team's all up in Cleveland. I live in Charleston, South Carolina now. Going to UPS and signing documents for a closing or a refinance in front of a notary and then putting it in the mail. Why don't I have an assistant locally who has their notary license that can just print the documents for me, notarize the documents for me, scan the documents for me, and then deliver them to UPS or FedEx or whatever and get them in the mail? There's no reason I should be doing those things, right? Those are like $10 an hour activities that I'm doing, right? And so there's things like that I know that are on my plate right now, and that's just what I'm aware of. I'm sure there's plenty of things that I'm not aware of that I'm doing, that doing a time audit will help on that. Write this down. Every day has many opportunities, but every day only has one best opportunity. How are you spending your time, and are you spending your time on that one best opportunity? Make sure you're focused and only spending your time on the highest return on your time. The next thing that I would do as I'm working on my goal setting, if I'm in your shoes, is really understand what your unique ability is. See, at really the core of our being, there are certain characteristics, values, skills that are unique entirely to you, and you need to identify those. Another exercise that I would do, sit back and take 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes and make a list of all the skills, talents, and values that you embody. And I know it's kind of weird, doing that for yourself and trying to think about those things. And again, sometimes, one of the things I say, when you're in the frame, you can't see the whole picture. Find 5, 10, 15 people that you work with or who are very close to you, and ask them to identify those skills, talents, and values that are unique entirely to you, things that they think you're really, really good at or might have a natural talent for, right? And by realizing what those things are and taking a look at and identifying what you're doing on a daily basis, converging those two things and kind of cross-referencing those, you're going to really realize what your unique ability is and where you should be spending a lot more of your time. By knowing what this is, it's really going to, inspire you to trust your intuition, right? Like, you're in your zone all the time. It's going to encourage you to really build a life around what you enjoy doing, and not just stuff that you feel like you have to do on a daily basis. And really what you do best. If it's something that you enjoy, typically you like doing it because you're good at it. And because you're good at it, you enjoy it more, right? So it's this self-perpetuating circumstance of enjoying what you do, being really good at it, and then you get better and better, and then you enjoy it more and more, and you're happier with how you're spending your time on a daily basis. Here's another thing that you can do, another exercise to create really buckets of where you should be spending your time and what you need to get off your plate. If you've never seen it, there's a matrix called the 4 Ds of time management, and you can take all those line items that you put in the time audit, and you can also mark, another way of doing it is this an urgent activity or a non-urgent activity? And is it an important activity or a not important activity? And when you break it down into those 4 boxes, let me put up a little matrix right here for you to look at. If it's something that's not important and it's something that's not urgent, delete it. Get it off of your plate. Get rid of it. There's no don't even give it to anybody on your team, right? Just delete. Gone, right? Open up your calendar because it's not important, it's not urgent. Just get rid of it. Delete. If it's not important but it's urgent, right now I'm thinking of things like property management, taking maintenance phone calls or insurance things and stuff like that, right? From a real estate perspective, there's things that are urgent that need somebody's attention, but they're not really important, right? It's just kind of like the daily chaos that you have to deal with. That stuff that get off your plate, right? Give that to somebody else. Delegate that. That's the D for that box. Delegate it to somebody else on your team and get it off your plate. The things that you need to be focused on are the important activities. The things that are important and urgent, those are things that you should be doing right then and there. Right now, focus on the important and urgent activities that have to be done. For me, I sponsor all the loans, so usually loan docs start flying the day of closing, and I got to get all the loan documents, and I need to sign them all, and I get them all notarized, get them back over to the attorneys, overnight them, all that kind of stuff. Another one of those things would be like raising private money. I know I got a deal closing in 30 days. There's a sense of urgency to that, and it's highly important. We can't close on the deal unless we have the money. So I know that I need to start communicating with my private money lenders. I need to shoot out an email blast to them. I know that I need to host a webinar to allow them to come in, see the opportunity, and then make an investment commitment into partnering with us on that project. So those are important activities that I need to do. And then there's important but not urgent. Me creating content for you falls into that category. It's important. It can lead to us building more rapport. Maybe you and me end up doing a deal together. Maybe you wholesale a deal to me. Maybe I sell a deal to you. Maybe you invest in one of our projects. Maybe we joint venture somehow. Who knows? Who knows what could come from it? I know it's a very important thing because I know it's high impact, but it's not urgent, right? It doesn't matter if I make this video now or if I make it 6 months from now. So in this case, this is when you defer it. And when I say defer, I don't mean kick it down the road. I mean schedule it out. Putting this on the calendar requires me to then sit down with my videographer Cameron and then create the content for you, right? But it's done when I want to schedule. It's done not as a sense of urgency where it's just thrown at me. It's done on my timeline versus somebody else's timeline. So if it's important but not very urgent, schedule that out over the next week to 30 days and just get it on your calendar if it falls into that category. But don't push it out more than 30 days because eventually it'll just kind of get, again, kicked down the road and you'll never actually see it through. But the important stuff you got to pay attention to it. You got to take care of those activities, especially as the CEO of your company. If you ask yourself better questions, you're going to start getting better answers. If you ask yourself the best questions, you're going to get the best answer. If you ask yourself horrible questions, you're going to get horrible answers, right? So I want you focused on asking yourself better questions as you set your goals for the new year. Here's a good one. How do I 10x my results with only 10% of my time? That's an interesting question, right? A lot of times people think, oh, I'll just do more, put more on my plate in order to 10x my results. I just have to do 10 times more work. That doesn't give any of us lifestyle that we're looking for. So how do we say, hey, how do I get 10 times the results? And instead of working 50 hours a week, I can only work 5, 1 hour a day. Put a time constraint on you. What do you need to do in that 1 hour a day? Who do you talk to? What effort do you put forth that delivers the greatest return on your time? If there was one problem, this is a good question. If there was one problem, if solved, would solve 100 other problems, right? One domino. Knock down the one domino, and all of a sudden it's solved and knocks down all the other dominoes. Keep on stepping back. What is the one issue that you're facing right now? If you solve that one thing, it takes care of everything else, right? Let's figure out what that is. Think about that, and let's put a plan in place for the next 60 to 90 days to attack that and knock that domino down. It's gonna make everything so much easier for you. One of my favorites is, what do I need to eliminate or remove from my life? It's not always about adding new things in order to grow. Think about this. You can add things to your plate, add things to your responsibilities, and grow. But if you also remove things, look at how much more you grow, right? Making an addition and a subtraction. And if you can eliminate some of the negative things, the toxic things, the non-productive things from your life, and maybe that's people, maybe that's team members, maybe that's friends, family members, who knows, right? It exists, it's a real thing. If you can remove, eliminate, or at least limit those influences on your life, what can that open you up to? To new relationships, to new friendships, right? To new opportunities. So it's not always about adding, sometimes it's about subtracting. 2021 was a big year of subtraction for me. It was getting out of partnerships that were not productive. It was selling properties that were a pain in the ass. It was getting rid of time-wasting opportunities to open me up for better opportunities, because the opportunity cost that it was costing me, right? So it was a lot about removing and eliminating things for me this year. What that's gonna open me up for is new opportunities in 2022. And then one of the best questions is not, when I go out to events and masterminds and I sit down with mentors, or I read a new book, I used to think like, oh, this is something that I need to implement in my business and in my life and do this and do that. I don't say that to myself anymore. Now I ask myself, who do I need to hire to do that activity, to implement that into my business, right? Who can I hire to do the how? Who can I hire to do the what? And who can I hire to do it better than I can do it? I'm not just looking for, a minimum effort. I want the best, because I realize that's an investment that I'm making into my team who can do it way better than I ever could. And because of it, we're getting better results than we could ever get with me doing it, and it maintains the lifestyle that I'm looking for. That gives you some ideas, some things to think about. Hopefully you guys took some notes, rewatch the video, share it with anybody else who that you know is doing some goal setting, right? This hopefully will help you stimulate some ideas, stimulate some conversations, and really look at your situation from a different level, from a higher level, a better perspective, and get you in a position to make 2022 the best year you've ever had. So appreciate you, love you, make 2022 your best year yet. Be your best.